There we go. Hello there. Nice to see you. Well, what a treat to be here with you. This is quite an iconic and unique place. This is my first time, and it's great to see all of your smiling faces. Thank you for giving me a moment to share some things with you that I hope will bring you some hope and some courage during a time in our country where there is a lot of doom and gloom. There's a lot of reasons to be concerned, a lot of reasons to be outraged and angry at darkness that we see creeping in and flooding not just the halls of Congress, but our preschools and our children's libraries, the places where it should not be. Many of you know me from a TV show for kids called Growing Pains. Back in the 1980s, where we had wholesome entertainment for families. And so much has changed. And now that I'm a father, I'm 54 years old. I've got 6 children together with my wife. I married my on-screen sweetheart, Chelsea, who played Mike Seaver's girlfriend back in the 1990s. And now we also just became grandparents when our little baby girl just had a little baby girl. So we have a lot of skin in the game, just like you do. We love this country. We love God. We love our family. We live in California, recently just moved from California, perhaps one of the most beautiful states in all of the country. I can tell you, I was just there. The beaches are still beautiful, and the mountains and the air is still beautiful. There's so much to love, but there's so much that's chasing so many good people out of California, and we're now in Tennessee, and our children are in Tennessee. I want you to know that as a Christian, as a patriot, as a family man, have been traveling around the country, doing what I can at public libraries and in Christian schools and at churches, and speaking with elected representatives, I have found some patterns. I found that one of those patterns is that there is an attitude of discouragement that is descending toward hopelessness and despair because of the evil forces that are deteriorating the fabric of America. And one of the things I see that is most concerning to me is that even within the family of faith, those who put their trust in the blessed hope who has a name, Jesus, are feeling hopeless themselves because they think we've crossed some sort of a line in our country and there's no coming back. There are those who think that it's even written in the book that it's only supposed to get worse and there's nothing that can be done except to escape. I personally think that that kind of hopelessness and despair is completely out of place for God's faithful followers, and that He has given us a birthright of courage and a faith that can work itself out in love that can realign the nation with good and godly values. What if, listen to me, what if this current cultural setback is really a divine setup for a spiritual comeback led by the family of faith? Do you know that times of revival and the great awakenings that we have experienced in this country always came during periods of spiritual apathy, moral decline, economic collapse, and political corruption? I think we're about due for another one, don't you? I have been spending the last couple of years writing children's books of virtue and character. And the first one I wrote was called As You Grow. It's a book I wrote with a publisher called Brave Books. Some of you know them and are reading these to your children. These are pro-God, pro-America books for little kids. Well, I wanted to read it in a public library, just like many other people are reading books to children in public libraries, like drag queens. I was denied by over 50 woke libraries that had previously held drag queen story hours for children. I pressed the issue because I understand that this is unconstitutional, simply because they see me as a Christian representing values that they disagree with. So I told some of my friends like Tucker Carlson and others at the news, went on their programs, called them out, and told them that I would be prepared to see them in court because they have violated the Constitution. They reversed course. I went to those libraries that told me they didn't align with my values, that nobody would show up. And when I went to the downtown public library in Indianapolis, we were greeted by over 3,000 parents and grandparents and children that crushed their records of attendance of any event that they had had there. And it was so filled with people on the 6 floors of this library that they were down the escalators, out the street, and into the parking lot, exceeding fire codes for capacity. And when they found out, these 3,000, that they couldn't get into the reading room that only held 100 at a time, what did they do? They didn't start a riot. They didn't start flipping cars over and breaking windows and setting stuff on fire. What did they do? The mom sat down in the carpet between the aisles at the library, opened up their book bags, and started having their own little story hours with their kids in the halls, singing God Bless America and the national anthem. It was beautiful. And little revivals, little awakenings that are great awakenings in the hearts of moms and dads are happening all over the country. I know, I go. I'm all over the place. And this has happened in Los Angeles, in New York City, in D.C. We went to Seattle, Washington, and San Francisco, and Phoenix, all of these places. And people come out of the woodwork, just like you, who feel marginalized and silenced by a media that's delivering false narratives and making you think that you're alone and that you're small and that you're weak and afraid. There's no need for us to feel that way. Perception coming from the media is not reality. I know. I come from the land of make-believe. That's how we do it. We get you to think things that are not true. Since we've been doing these library readings for kids, and I think we've got some pictures here that I can show you of the crowds that would show up at the libraries with everybody coming out and singing. We also started an event called See You at the Library, which is a national event that is our take on See You at the Pole. You know, when you come to the kids' schools and you'd pray at the pole? Well, now these are families praying at libraries and singing songs like God Bless America and reading their own books to kids in these neighborhoods. This last summer, on June 1st, Guinness World Records recorded the world's largest drag queen story hour. 263 people showed up to set a world record for the world's largest drag queen story hour. We had our event called See You at the Library and had over 35,000 people show up across 350 libraries. We've got a picture of the United States map right here to show you where all of the libraries that volunteered for a story hour, led and organized by parents reading Christian books of virtue and singing patriotic songs to children to remind them that this is the greatest country on the earth. So it's happening. I can feel the rumblings of revival under my feet everywhere that I go. Is there reason to be concerned? Do we need to wake up by the millions and stand up and lean in? Yes, we do. And we've got to do it the right way. God's way of doing things is different than a wicked world system's way of doing things. And our founders understood this. Our forefathers and foremothers understood this. The right way to reclaim a culture of heaven on earth, to build it from the beginning or to reclaim it after we have lost a grip on it, is from the inside out. It's from the bottom up. And what I mean by that is it starts with that heart transformation. What did God tell Moses when he was going into the promised land? He brought them right up to the gates, and so that they didn't get swallowed by a pagan culture with giants in the land, he told them, take these commands that I've given you. They're to be in your heart. Then he said, teach these things diligently to your children. You must talk to them about these things, to love God with all of your heart, to love others as yourself, and teach them when you're sitting in your home, when you're walking along the way, when you put them down to sleep at night, and when they rise up again in the morning. But now here's my paraphrase, if you outsource that parenting responsibility to public schools run by a Marxist government, don't be surprised when your kids come back and tell you that you're crazy and you don't know what you're doing, and they have bought into the wrong system. So, we've got work to do that begins in our own hearts as parents and grandparents. We've got to transfer our values and our principles to our children by investing the sacred moments we have with them. And I know that you know that. We have been sold a whole false set of ideas with promises that, thank God, people are waking up and realizing is all a bunch of lies. And we've got to get back to starting in my head, reforming myself, reforming my heart, heavenizing my own home, the work of my hands with whatever it is that God has called you and equipped you to do with the gifts and talents and relationships and resources He's given you. Let that be a reflection of your values all the way through and all the way out to the city gates. It's an inside-out strategy, and it starts at the grassroots and works its way up to the top. So the change begins at my house. Then it works its way all the way up to the White House. When I look at the candidates that we have to choose from year after year after year, and people complain and they talk about, we don't have the right good and godly people to choose from, and I'm not going to vote, and I don't like the lesser of two evils, or all that kind of stuff. Listen, this is all happening on our watch. We need to have the kind of parents and grandparents who are raising kids that are so saturated in the Word of God with such a heart that loves other people that we should have 100 candidates that we'd all be happy with as Christian patriots. Not one that we're trying to convince ourselves is okay, or two or three, but lots of them. We are the culture-making machine that's got to turn out the human beings that are rich in character and in faith. And I know that we can do it. It starts with a personal revival, and then it turns into a family revival, and then it can turn into a community and a state and a national revival. It's happened before, and it can happen again. I want to close with this. I just finished a children's television program. It is our generation's version of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. We are bringing back Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood combined with a Sesame Street that is Bible-friendly. It's called The Adventures with Iggy and Mr. Kirk. And we teach children pro-God, pro-America values that parents can put their kids in front of and trust. And it's also warning children about things like communism and socialism and critical race theory, and teaching them the importance of Second Amendment rights and First Amendment rights and the fruit of the Spirit like love and humility, kindness, faith, and self-control. I brought a little clip for you because I think this will encourage you when you see what is on the horizon that we think is going to bring transformation to children's entertainment. Watch this. Hello, brave explorers. Welcome to my treehouse. Oh, look at this. This little bird has a hurt wing.
Oh, well, that's not good. We need to take it to the hospital.
Just as the wildflowers were starting to bloom in Whittemore Woods, the sweetest little bear cub was born. He wasn't like any other cub on Freedom Island, but that made Mother Bear love him even more.
Mr. Kirk is human, his family is human, and then there's you.
Well, I'm part of his family too.
Oh, well, you don't exactly fit in here.
Culture said that because I'm an iguana, I don't fit in your family.
culture is wrong. You are family. Instead of trying to change, we should embrace the way God made us, because God doesn't make mistakes.
I guess that means that God didn't make a mistake with me.
He made a work of art with you. I'd say a true, one-of-a-kind masterpiece.
Thanks.
That's coming out in the fall. A brand new book that I wrote called Born to be Brave, How to be a Part of America's Spiritual Comeback is also coming out in the fall. I think you might have access to some copies here earlier than everybody else because you're special. And I want to leave you with this quote. While a founding father would be appropriate right now, I want to drop a little Middle-earth wisdom on you from Gandalf the Grey, from Lord of the Rings. Gandalf said, during a time of great evil and distress, he said to his friend, other evils there are that shall come. For even Sauron himself is but a servant or an emissary. Yet it is not our task to master all the tides of the world, but to do what is in us for the help of those years wherein we have been set, uprooting the evil in the fields we know, that those who live after us may have clean earth to till. What weather they shall have is not ours to rule. Gandalf got it. He was right. What he's saying is that you and I, in our day, as well, cannot expect to extinguish all the evil that we see around us, morally, politically, spiritually, economically. And the evil that we see now is the fruit of even greater evils that are ready to send more. But what we have been tasked with is to do everything in our power, as long as we have breath in these lungs, during the time that we are here on the stage of this earth, to uproot the evil in the fields we know. In California, in Tennessee, in New Jersey, in New York, in my heart, in your heart, and in your marriage, and in your family, and in your local districts. And while we do that, also to plant some seeds of truth and goodness and beauty, so that those who live after us, our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren, will have cleaner earth to build their world on. And the political, spiritual, moral storms and weather that they will face, they will be able to handle because they grew up being trained and mentored and discipled by you and grandparents and parents who loved God and were loyal to them and invested in them and stood for the righteous cause in the face of evil and didn't back down, trusting that God has victory written all over his plans to bring heaven to earth. We just have to follow his lead and trust him and do our part. Thank you for doing your part. Thank you for being a part of AMAC and all the great work that they're doing. And thank you for giving me a moment of your time. God bless you.